Welcome. Happy New Year, everybody. This is Jay Shaw from the Behind the Bench Network. Thank you for listening. Shout out to the bench crew. Check out all of our past videos. And if you like what you hear, go ahead and subscribe. If you like what you hear in this video, go ahead and subscribe. Shout out to Big Dog Talk Sports, Kobe Bryant's Film Room. They are a part of the Behind the Bench family now. So we just trying to do some big things going forward. Shout out to Kelvin and JB as we put these videos together and try to give y'all a little something different from what everybody else is talking about. So we got big plans. We're trying to get 1,000 subscribers by the end of January. And we got big plans for 2024. Something different. But with that said, let's get straight to it. This is part 2 of why do the Lakers have two 25-point scorers? And why are they a 500 team? Now, my boy Jermaine did part 1, JB, and he broke down that the Lakers gave up their future, which we believe if they would have kept the young core that was drafted from 2016 to 2019 would have been a championship contending team. Now, a lot of people will be like, haha, no, they wouldn't. When you look at the 16 players drafted within that time, and you put that talent together, yes, they would have. Now, Jermaine will say, well, all we needed was the right free agent. And part of me believes that. Part of me believes that if we would have went after Paul George and instead of LeBron James, if we would have went after Paul George, he would have been like that piece when Golden State had their young talent of Draymond Green. They had Bomboso. They had Steph Curry. They had Klay Thompson. They had a veteran, David West. But when they signed Andre Iguodala, and he didn't come in saying, okay, I'm the big time, I'm the all-star player, I'm the big time player, and this is going to be my team. But he came in and gave them leadership, great locker room guy, defense, and they fed off that. And he recognized who was the future of the team was and where the scoring was going to come from. I believe Paul George would have been similar to that, but he still would have been the leading scorer, with B.I. being the number 2 and Julius Randle being the number 3. Look at that already. Those 3 players, you add in Zubac in the starting lineup, and even if you had Lonzo Ball, who would not demand it, and I know he had injuries, but he would not demand it to be a scorer. He would have been a facilitator, and he would have played defense. If you look at Lonzo Ball, when he's in that lineup with that Chicago team, they're a great defensive team. Now, just that lineup alone, to me, is one of the best starting 5s in the NBA. But it don't stop there, because we would have had Kuzma coming off the bench. He would have been our 6th man. We could have played any style of play, big, 3-point shooting, fast lineup, small lineup. We could have played any style. Kuzma coming off the bench. If, let's say, Lonzo Ball, he's injured, we could have put in Josh Hart. When Josh Hart was playing in Portland, he was a 20-point game scorer. The thing about Josh Hart, he was a player of the year in college. He came in mature. He does whatever the team needs him to do. But he's a capable 19, 20-point game scorer when given the opportunity. Now, yeah, Lou Williams probably still would have got traded. We still had Thomas Bryant, Alex Caruso. We had a squad. And I'm pretty sure I'm leaving some names off. But from 6 man all the way through 9, we had some players. And I haven't even mentioned, we probably would have moved up Austin Reeves. He would have been in the back end. We would have had a lot of depth. And we would have had players that could play at any position. Thomas Bryant could have played center and power forward. He could shoot the 3 because he shot 40% in college. Zubac is your starter. He could play. He's your center. So if Thomas Bryant coming in, he could. And then we still had, at the time, we had Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez did not want to leave the Lakers. He's still playing. He would have took a reduced role, been the great locker room guy, veteran. We would have had a mix of veterans and young players. So he would have been the backup to Zubac at the center. Thomas Bryant come in, be the backup to nice little energy player, gives Julius Randle a little time. Kuzma comes in, gives Paul George a little time. Josh Hart comes in, he could play shooting guard, because like I said, he averaged at least 18, let's say 18. He averaged around 18 points in Portland when he was playing and getting some significant minutes and shooting. He could play a little shoot guard, or he could play point guard. Caruso come in, could play the shoot guard. Hart could play the point guard. We had a team. But a lot of people will say, well, there's only so many balls that could go around. Yeah, you're right, 100% right. But everybody knew their role. It wasn't nobody on that team that was trying to be the man. Everybody knew who the man was. They knew he's going to be the shot. He's going to get his shots. Randall's going to get his shots. And let's just say Paul George would have got his shots. Zubac would have been used correctly than what he's been used with the Clippers. He would have got his touches down low because they was giving him his touches down low when he was on the team. And he could shoot a 10-foot jumper, but they don't let him shoot that in with the Clippers. And when he's on the floor, the Clippers is a better defensive team. You see where I'm going now? Watch this. The thing is with that young core, they was a great defensive team at the ages that they was at. 19, 20, 21, 22. They was a top 10 defensive team. That's why they was able, they won that summer league. They started off slow in the first half of the season and then had they had one of the best second season records in the whole NBA. And they was a top 10 team and they bought in to what Luke Walton was coaching. They bought into it. And he was coaching defense. We picked up the right coach. Luke Walton was the better coach. LeBron came to the team and he didn't want Luke Walton. Even, it was, you could pull this up and this is facts. Rich Paul had a meeting, a lunch with Adam Silver, which is funny how an agent is having a meeting with Adam Silver and he's talking about how can he fire or get rid of Luke Walton. Why is Rich Paul having this conversation with Adam Silver asking how can he get rid of Luke Walton? See, I'm going to break it down, but I had to touch in on this because I know a lot of people, you got a lot of doubters out there that feel like that team was not going to be good enough because they was not they didn't have the well-known name. But imagine if they was like that Detroit Pistons that beat the big name Shaq and Kobe Lakers. And they didn't have a real big name. Yeah, they had a couple, they had Rasheed Wallace and Rip Hamilton and Chauncey Billups. But the thing is, they didn't have the depth that the Lakers had. See, the Lakers had so much depth, and we still had cap space, and we still had all our draft picks, that if they felt like we needed to shake things up, they could have went out and got a Kawhi Leonard. So imagine Kawhi Leonard now. Let's say B.I. felt like, you know what, I want to move and have my own team, same way like James Harden did when he left OKC. Contract comes up, he wants to get paid, want to have his own team, want to go somewhere else. But in the Lakers, it's like, okay, that's cool, you could explore. And then they don't sign the extension or whatever, for whatever reason, and they go ahead and put their eyes on Kawhi Leonard. Now you got Kawhi Leonard with Paul George, and you see what those two do with just the Clippers and their talent. But we still have better talent in the starting lineup and on the bench. And you added 2 defensive players to a team that already enjoyed playing defense at a young age. What do you think that they'll be doing in today, 2024, and they're all 4 or 5 years older now? You don't go backwards. When you play defense at a young age, the older you get, you don't go backwards, and now you become the 25th ranked defensive team. No, if you was already in the top 10, you can only go forward. Now you might be a top 3 defensive team on top of the talent that we already had. So what it should have been us and Denver competing against each other to see who controls the West, where you got a couple other teams coming in still feeling like they had a shot to make a title run. But actuality, it was supposed to be this Laker team. And can't nobody tell me otherwise, because like I said, defense wins championships, and we would have had enough offensive power throughout every player on that team that was a capable scorer and a defensive player. Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram, Ivica Zubac, Josh Hart. All these players played defense, and they all liked each other. And there was no friction between each other on who should get the ball, who's the man. They already knew. People already knew what their roles was, and that's another thing. You don't see young teams know what their roles are. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you why. This Laker team is sitting at 500 with 2 25-point game scorers. So peep game. So check this out. And I didn't even get to mention D'Angelo Russell that could come in and come off the bench and give you some more punch. Or you still had Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance Jr. Like, the list goes on. And yeah, they probably would not have been able to keep every single body, and that's okay. We trade them. We get access for later on to use down the line. We get draft picks from them. You see what I'm saying? For a team that needs a D'Angelo Russell or a Jordan Clarkson, we trade them and get first and second round draft picks. So now when the core players the 4 or 5 core players is starting to get there up there in age. we got Big Joker and Little Joker in our back pocket that we gonna throw down, boom, boom, and we gonna keep the show going. So, we would have had at least an 8-year run with that core, and then another 5 years with the new core if we drafted right, which I didn't have a problem because the Bus brothers did an excellent job when it came to evaluating talent and bringing talent to the team. See, you see teams get young teams, like you'll see a team have a young team, but then and they're drafting and they don't hit home runs, right? And when they don't hit home runs, it holds the franchise back a couple years. Especially if they're drafting every year and they're not hitting a home run with the players that they're getting. And then they're unable to get that free agent to come in and piece it together. Like Jermaine said, sometimes you just need to get that free agent to piece together, to build around, right? Or sometimes you get young teams and they can't play defense. The Lakers, we was supposed to be the team of the future, and honestly the blueprint of what other teams was capable of doing going forward when it comes to building the team up, understanding the talent that you had. And they did it so smart. They used those first round picks. Yeah, they was raw. Lonzo Ball, B.I., D'Angelo. But then they hit home runs with their later picks. The Thomas Bryants, the Ivica Zubac's, the Josh Harts, the Kyle Kuzmas, the Jordan Clarksons. See, they made sure that they drafted players in those later rounds that played at least 3 years in college. So they was already mature. And they was not just mature, they knew they was mature and they had a work ethic and they wanted to contribute and be good. So they didn't come in like they knew, okay, B.I. was drafted number 2, I was drafted 23 or 27 or second round. I'm not the star player. They didn't build a franchise around me. They're building it around this person. So how do I stick in the league? I need to play defense, and I need to be good at practice and be a team player and figure out what my role is. And once I know what my role is, if I'm going to be a scorer, if I'm going to be a defender, if I'm going to be a playmaker, if I'm going to be an energy guy, if I'm just going to be a solid player coming off the bench, then I need to know who I am. That's why I told you, Josh Hart, he could average 18 points consistently because he played those years in college, but he's a great rebounder. He could pass. He could average 7, 8 assists if you needed him to. If you needed him to average 10 rebounds, he can because he's one of the best rebounders in the game. And that's the thing about and he's a worthy defender. I'm not saying he's great, but he will try to defend. Even with D'Angelo Russell, when he was in Brooklyn, he was played a certain way. He didn't get to play that style once he went to Minnesota. He didn't get to play that style once he went to the Lakers. But if you want to get the best out of D'Angelo Russell, you got to play the style that he played when he was in Brooklyn and let him be the facilitator and let him have the ball in his hands. But you also can't ask for much out of him. You can't think that he's going to be a 25-point game scorer. That's not what makes him special. You see what I'm saying? You would have had Kuzma and Clarkson coming off the bench as your 6 and 7 man, instant offense off the bench. So when the starters was sit down, either they're going to build the lead or they're going to keep the lead that they already had. You see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going? Like that young team they was special. And since a lot of y'all Laker fans probably did not see the talent that y'all had, and some of y'all did, because I run into a lot of Laker fans and they feel like we should never let that young core go. A lot of us seen it early. And the ones that didn't see it, they wasn't really fans. They was casuals. They didn't watch the game. They knew the names, but they didn't watch the games like that. But let me talk about how can you have LeBron averaging 25.7 points a game and Anthony Davis averaging 25.0 points a game. Well, I talked about this and I might make another video, but if LeBron is your star player on the team, how can this team with Anthony Davis and LeBron both be averaging 25 be a 500 team? And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to explain how. See, you got LeBron averaging 25, you got AD averaging 25. But then you got D'Angelo Russell averaging 15. You had got Austin Reeves averaging 15. And then you got Prince averaging 10 points. So that's 5 players that's averaging double figures. Now, I made a video a while back, I believe I did, when I talked about what a real superstar needs to be successful, the type of help that he needs. And it's a history, if you go back and look at it, in the league, when it comes to Pacific players, all they needed was this much help. See, the thing is, LeBron is not that player that everybody thinks he is because he's putting up 25 points a game. He's not that player. A lot of those points is non-impactful. A lot of those points come in the first quarter when the game is not even close to being decided. Matter of fact, most of the time in the first quarter, leads ain't even really built. So when he's scoring these points, it's still a lot more game left. You see what I'm saying? I'm trying to think of a perfect analogy for a lot of y'all to understand. Let me try to use this analogy. If you ever played Monopoly, right? You may come off real hot. You done bought like 3 properties. Not suits, but 3 properties. And everybody else just got 1. You started off fast, but the game is nowhere even close to being over because there's still a lot more properties that need to be bought. And when you buy, and the properties you bought is on that 3rd row and that 4th row. Good properties, but a couple other people bought the same suits that you bought. So you ain't gonna really make a lot of money off those suits unless you work a deal and a trade and do something, right? Because you can't own a suit of properties to be able to put the houses and the hotels on. Well, that's how LeBron is to this team. He scores fast. He scores very fast. He gets his points. And then he tails off at the end. And he's not really able to help the team unless they're winning. Then he'll stat pad and add a couple more points totals, And I'm not saying that he don't have games where he's, contributing throughout the game. But most of the time, it all depends on if the Lakers are up or if they're down. If they're down, and let's say they're down by 10 or 15 with 5 minutes left, he knows the game is over. The Lakers never impose their will on this team to even show that they could come back, especially if the refs is not helping them. If the refs is not helping them, they can't come back. He don't have it in him to say, I'm going to take over and I'm going to shorten this lead, because what LeBron don't do, he don't play defense. See, a real superstar, and you can go back and look at all the champions in the last 20 years. They're able to score. All they need is a player that's giving them, they're going to be the ones that's going to give you anywhere between 26 to 32 points a night. Then their second leading scorer, it could give you anywhere between 18 to 24. That's AD, right? He's averaging 25, but he's the second leading scorer. He's giving you good numbers. That's 50 points just on those two alone. Then your third scorer got to give you anywhere between 14 to 18 points consistent. Well, Austin Reeves is giving them, or let's say D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell's giving them between 15 and 18 points a night. What's the problem? See, because any superstar, all they need is the second leading scorer to average 18 to 24, the third leading scorer to average 14 to 18, and then the fourth leading scorer is going to give you whatever he can, right? Which is normally 10 to 16 points. Then you might have a fourth scorer, and whatever he gives you is always bonus. He might give you 6 one night. He might give you 8 one night. He might give you 12 one night. He might give you 16 one night. But if you got these type of scorers on your team, and like I said, you could do the research. Basketball Reference is your friend. You can see what every championship player that's a real superstar, when they won, they had that formula of scores. The difference is they also play defense. And see, LeBron, when he's scoring, he's not playing defense. And a lot of casual fans don't understand, when you play defense, it takes away from your scoring. That's why Kobe Bryant was so great and Michael Jordan, because they will score throughout the game, impactful points, but they will also shut down the other team's best player. When you look at LeBron, who is he guarding? He's guarding the worst player on the court. He's guarding the worst player on the court. Occasionally, he might get in transition, he might get stuck on one of the best players of the team, but eventually he ain't going to be playing. He's not going to guard him. See, the Lakers can't win in their 500 team because their leader don't play defense. You cannot win in the NBA if you're not playing defense. And LeBron refuses to play defense because he knows his fans and the media just needs to see him get 25 to 28 points a game, and he did his job, but they don't want to tell the truth. And the problem is, he got the firepower with Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Davis, but he don't want to play defense. So if he ain't playing defense and demanding defense, what do you think the other players is going to do? They're not going to be great defensively. But it's layers to it, and I'm going to break it down. See, Taurean Prince ain't really known for playing defense, but they had to sign him because they didn't have no cap space to sign anybody else that was good enough, that was capable of playing defense. Remember, the Lakers had to sign about 9 to 12 players at the start of the season because they had to fill out a roster. So when you don't have money to play with, you got to take what you could get. Austin Reeves was never a great defender because he came from the G League. He's only in, his third year? He's in his third year from the G League. He was undrafted. The reason why he was not drafted wasn't because he at the time he didn't have the confidence that he has now offensively, but he wasn't a great defender. But he's able to stick on this Laker team because he's able to score, which helps the Lakers, helps LeBron, because they didn't have nobody that can score, and they You know, just last year they had about 9 clutch players, clutch clients on the Laker team. So, they couldn't sign them again. See, but that's the problem. They don't have players that could defend because they didn't have cap space to get players that was capable defenders. And LeBron don't defend. So this is a reason why this team is sitting at 500. The other reason is, and I told people this, because I used to be in the Facebook groups and sports groups on Facebook. The problem with the Lakers, they try to build their team around LeBron instead of building it around Anthony Davis. If they would have built the team around Anthony Davis and if LeBron would have took a secondary role and been, you know what, I'm going to score 18 points a night, be efficient, but I'm going to take most of my other energy and play defense, then this team would look totally different. But LeBron don't want that. See, because LeBron wants to be the man and he wants to get all the credit because of his legacy. See, LeBron is selfish. He's the most selfish athlete in sports history. He only thinks about himself. And I'm sorry, LeBron fans, this is the facts. This is truth. Because if it wasn't, Anthony Davis will be getting the ball. It's funny. I remember a couple years ago, media day, LeBron said, yeah, Anthony Davis, yeah, he's the, I'm going to make sure that he's the MVP of the league. This is his team. I might have to find the footage. I probably will have to find the footage, and if I find the footage, I'll edit it in. And by the time Christmas came and LeBron was averaging like 24, 25 points, he said, I'll make sure Anthony Davis is the defensive player of the year, because ESPN started talking about MVP, having LeBron in MVP conversation, even though he did not deserve to be in the MVP conversation. See, the thing is, the Lakers are a bad team. What have we been told for those that have been watching basketball our whole life? Players that's on a bad team that put up big numbers, are they all-star players? I might have to make this another video later on. Nah, you're just you're just a good player on a bad team putting up big numbers. You're just a player on a bad team putting up big numbers. So why the rules don't apply when it comes to LeBron? I'll wait. This is what we always been told, right? You're not an all-star if you're on a bad team putting up big numbers. LeBron's putting up big numbers. Don't get called out by the media if he's shooting a bad percentage and not playing defense. All they want to say is, what this man is doing at 39 years old in year 21 is amazing. But realistically, a lot of players that probably would have had that same, if they would have had the media backing them, if they was able to shoot as many shots as they want, don't matter if they win or lose, and don't have to play defense, a lot of these players, old superstars, could have averaged 25 points a game too at the age of 39. So when I look at LeBron and look what he's doing, he's not doing anything magical. He's just not getting called out on the BS that the NBA allows him to do. And the media, really the media. The media allows him, and that's because he controls the media on all these networks. The only ones that's going to talk and give you some real content about LeBron is the ones on YouTube. Us on YouTube that watch this dude's career, his whole career, and watch NBA basketball, college basketball their whole lives. That remember the rules that the media told us when it comes to certain players and who's great and who's not great and why this player is great and why this player is not great. There wasn't no narrative. It wasn't Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, Dominique Wilkins buying the media and having them say nothing but good things about them. That never took place. They took the criticism and they wanted to show anybody that criticized them for whatever, they was going to prove them wrong. And that's what made them a better player. So if you couldn't shoot free throws, by the end of next season, I'm going to be a way better free throw shooter than what you said I was. You said I couldn't play defense. I'm going to be a better defender come this next season. You said I was too fat. I'm going to show you I'm going to lose all this weight to show you that I could lose weight and I could play at a certain level. I didn't have an inside game. Now I got an inside game. I didn't have an outside shot. Now I got an outside shot. This is how the media police these players back then, and the media don't police these players the way they should. Why? Because they're all friends. And I don't want to ruffle no feathers when I see them in person, instead of just being real. But this is why the Lakers are 500 with two 25-point game scores. It's because they built that team around LeBron instead of building it around AD. And LeBron don't want to take a back seat and don't want to sacrifice his game for the betterment of the team. And he just want to get his numbers and don't play defense, knowing because he's not going to get called out on defense, shooting a bad percentage, being on a losing team. He's not going to get called out. So any Laker fans out there that want to know why this team is not good, it's because y'all put y'all trust in somebody that did not care about this team in the first place. He just cared about himself. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and end this. I'll make another video talking about this all-star thing. But shout out to the bench crew. Like and subscribe. Until then, I'm your boy Jay Shad. I'm out.